Hey guys, and welcome back to another day of Vlogmas. Today we're going to be talking about some of the unread books on my TBR. Almost every single time I put out a request for video ideas or suggestions, somebody comes back and asks me to do an entire video about my whole unread owned TBR, which I will never do in a single video. Sorry guys, but it would just be way too long. I haven't yet tallied up my unread owned books for 2018, seeing as I still am waiting on a few Black Friday book orders, and then I think I'm going to be getting a few books for Christmas. But as I am projecting into the future, I'm anticipating that by the end of 2018, I will have roughly 200 unread books on my owned TBR. Yes, I know that is excessive, and yes, I plan to do something about that in a reading challenge next year, but I will have a whole separate video on reading goals and reading challenges for 2019 coming up later on in Vlogmas. In today's video, I thought I would give you a bit of a glimpse into that unread TBR by talking about what I like to refer to as my shelf warmer books. Now, I call them shelf warmer books because it's kind of a take on the idea of a bench warmer, you know, someone who's there on the team ready for action and then just never gets put in play. So these are the books that have been on my TBR the longest without me actually getting around to reading them. And I'm sure you're like, oh, maybe one's been on there a couple years. No, I've got books here from childhood. So we are gonna get embarrassing, we're gonna get real, and we're gonna get right into it. So we might as well start off with a book that I think has been on my TBR the absolute longest. I think I got this, brace yourselves, when I was like 10 or 11 years old. And I'm 27 now, for reference, so it's been quite a while. So the book that has been on my TBR the absolute longest without being read is Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine. Now, like I mentioned, I think I got this when I was like 10 or 11, and I have no excuse. I have no idea why I just never picked it up. The only thing I can possibly think of is that as a younger reader, I really did not like reading from a girl's perspective. I found that the books I identified with more and connected with more were all books with boys as the main character, so that maybe put me off of this. I really was not into kind of princess narratives. I was much more into like adventure and things like that, so maybe that's what put me off of this, but honestly I have no excuse. Maybe this is one that I need to reevaluate whether I should hold on to it for much longer. Another book that I did receive as a child and just never picked up is Redwall by Brian Jacques, something like that. I think I received this from my parents because there used to be a cartoon series of this fantasy series that showed on like Saturdays on PBS or something like that, and I watched that pretty religiously for a while. And I think that's probably why I received this book, because somebody in my life knew I was vaguely interested. This one, I guess, is like classic fantasy. I'm not sure if this is more on the like middle grade side or if this is leaning towards young adult, but I don't know, I had a few friends who were into this series growing up, but it's not something I ever obviously felt compelled to pick up. I also have a few books here from when I was slightly older. So when I was in like 7th grade, I became convinced that I needed to become a novelist. Like that was my life goal, and it kind of still is, but I'm not like actively working towards it in the slightest. Anyways, when I was in like 7th grade, I started reading books on writing style. I started reading books on how to get published. I started drafting my first manuscript, and somebody during that time period bought me this book. This is Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life by Anne Lamott. I believe this is both part memoir and part kind of instructional writing, and it's actually a book I've seen over and over again on the bookish internet. It seems to be a favorite for people who are interested in writing. I actually have read bits and pieces of this. When I was in high school, I made it through maybe the first part of the book. I never actually finished reading it, so this is definitely one that I am still very interested in reading. I just always forget that it's on my shelves. Our lighting has literally gone to shit, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But the last book I have here to talk to you guys about today is The Mermaid Chair by Sue Monk Kidd. Now, I received this, I believe, like between freshman and sophomore year of high school, because in freshman year of high school we had to read The Secret Life of Bees, also by Sue Monk Kidd, and I enjoyed it enough that I think my parents assumed I would like this as well. If I'm honest, when it comes to this one, I think the cover has always put me off a bit, which seems like a stupid reason to not read a book, but it just, I don't know, it's it never really sucked me in. And then also the blurb on the back here is literally just this tiny little thing. It just says, a vividly imagined love story between a woman and a monk, a woman and her husband, and ultimately a woman and her own soul. The Mermaid Chair is the transcendent tale of Jesse Sullivan's self-discovery. Even now, that description doesn't sound entirely enticing to me. I've spoken about this before, but romance is really not something that I look for in any form of entertainment, whether that's like a TV show, a movie, or a book. So between the ultra kind of like feminine, ambiguous cover here and then that like very romance heavy little description, I just don't, it hasn't yet pulled my interest. And actually, looking at this now, I'm really unsure why I held on to this when I did my recent unhaul. This feels like it would have been a good one to just kind of pass on. So these are some of the shelf warmer books on my current owned TBR, and I would really love to ask you guys if you have read any of these and you think one of them is worth me diving into, please let me know. I would really appreciate any and all feedback. I think it would help me decide whether or not I should actually keep hanging on to them. And actually, I'm thinking of making this into a series because obviously I didn't want to like go on and on in this video, so I only picked 4 books, but there are still other books on my shelves that have been there for a long time unread, so I might do another one of these in the future. If you guys have any books that have been living on your shelves unread for a very long time, I would love to know, but otherwise that is all I have for today's video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!